Let's just remind ourselves, recapitulate at the beginning of Romans 11, Paul provides a threefold proof for his claim that God has not rejected his people Israel. In doing so, in the third step of his reasoning, he comes to the realization that through the fall of Israel, through their having rejected Messiah, through their trespass, there are different words used, salvation has come to the Gentile nations in the originally Jewish Redeemer, Yeshua. Now look, when I studied, I still remember my Rabbi Yaakov, who is not anymore among us. He always said, Yochanan, you have to learn always and see every text in context. What you Christians do is you pick a piece there and pick a piece there and say it fits so nicely and fit into your theologies, and your theologies are not biblical. And I think he's right. That's the reason why, even if I'm digging deeper, I always try to make you aware of the big lines, of the big contexts. Read the Bible as a book that is one after the other, and how it develops. Don't just pick there a verse and there a verse and live off that. Now, there's a tension for me that I want to dig deep, and I have to ask, what do the words mean? And then I want you to see the big picture. Now, Paul now builds on this observation that through their fall, salvation has come to the Gentiles, which, as I tried to show to you, has a rich background in Scripture and in rabbinical literature. It is present. If you see it, nobody likes it, because we always like a hero and not a failure. God has different ways. Now, Paul, in this train of thought, uses a rabbinic interpretative trick. Theologically, we would say a hermeneutical rule that is very commonly used in Talmudic literature. What he does is he concludes or makes an inference. In Hebrew, we say Qal VaChomer. In Latin, they say a minori ad maius. I try to find the English kind of how I should explain it. You conclude from the smaller to the bigger. Or in everyday language, I would say, now, if you go for it, then really go for it. It's something, if you do it, then do it right. This is, so what this hermeneutical rule, what Paul is doing here, he says, if something is correct or logical in a small, overlookable, clear context, then how much more? Sometimes in today's Hebrew language, the expression Qal VaChomer is used for simply saying, how much more? It is true in this interconnection, or this sequence must be true in a bigger scenario. And you have that quite often in Paul's thinking, that he uses this rule. Actually, it was the first rule of Hillel the Elder, who was in the time just before Paul, and I personally think that that Paul was very much formed by Hillel the Elder, who was a judge, a rabbinical judge in his time or just before his time. So what he's doing now here in Romans 11, we are in this text. He says, if this is true, that through their fall, through their stumbling, and I'm not quoting actually verse 12, if their trespass, if their stumbling, if their fall is riches for the world, if through their fall salvation has come through to the Gentiles, then he goes on, he says, if already their failure is riches for the Gentiles, and now it comes, how much more their fullness? You know, I would like you to visualize this very theoretical thing. What Paul says here is, if they stumbled, if they fell, if they rejected him, how much more? There is an interdependence. And first of all, we grasp it, there is more to be expected in the future. And then we should go back to our thinking. We very often think that shouldn't Israel just simply finally accept what we always already understood? And shouldn't Israel then become like us? I think we have to understand that there is still more wealth, more riches that God has in store for us, for the Gentile nations, much more than we have today. And we have to understand, and I'd like to take you there deeper into the text, we have to understand that this wealth, these more riches, indeed are only accessible for us through Israel.